Good morning, everyone. Join us for our weekly broadcast. It's Thursday, 10 a.m. once again. These weeks seem to keep coming around very, very quickly. But let me say, first of all, good morning to everyone joining us. This will, of course, be recorded on our YouTube channel, but this is currently live. So let me welcome my co-resident, Mr. John Corey. How are you this morning?
Co-residents. I'm very resident. So good morning. How are you? I'm doing fine. The life is good here. Weather has become very nice. We had a little bit of a business gathering yesterday at my wife's company, so I got to spend some time outside. We were all outside. It's quite upbeat right now.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. And then how's life over in Bristol with Mr. Ed Morgan, our special guest today?
Good, thank you. Yeah, lovely. It's dry, about 12 degrees, so not too bad.
Dry is good when you're a builder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you beat me to that, John. I was about to say, yeah, 12 degrees and dry with a wee bit of sunshine. That's just about perfect weather for being on a construction site. So we're going to hear Ed from you in a few moments, obviously, as our special guest today. But let's just dive into the other parts of our broadcast. So first of all, I'm just going to mention a little bit of CEO on the road, something I do from time to time. So for 2 weeks in a row, I was over in England, between London and some other locations. Some of the highlights of that, I attended the Canary Connections networking event in London, which was a brilliant event. Dal, our investment portfolio manager, was also with me. Barry Ray of Canary Connections had invited us along. We're actually now the sponsors of this event. I guess there was maybe 65 people in a room. Interestingly, Barry doesn't do any speeches, so there's no anyone standing on stage and selling something. It's very much just pure networking. Brilliant event. I also attended the Platinum Property Partners event. This is this one here with the crowd behind me. I know, John, you're familiar with them as an organization, and it was great to be able to be talking to them. I think about 130 delegates there, all about fundraising.
Yeah, they're actually the only, as far as I know, at least originally, the only franchise member of the British Franchise Association, so franchise company in the property space. And they primarily have a focus on HMOs. So those delegates, as you call them, are actually all franchise partners. They paid money to be a franchise partner. They operate around the country. And when it comes to HMO data, they can have some interesting data because they have such a broad reach across multiple markets.
Yeah, it was certainly good to meet Mike and Rich and the team there. And yeah, lots of great questions from their members in terms of fundraising. Also attended the Property Investor Show, which was great after a number of years of absence. I was able to get back to that. Picture of myself, Del Rey, and Lena from PLMD. We were there, which was a really good experience. Met an old friend of yours, John.
Yeah, Richard Bowser.
Yeah, he was there as well on his stand, so it's good to chat to him again. But I think the highlight for me, I have to say, was probably the working lunch up at PLMD. So AJ, Lena, and Yaz, we had a working lunch for about 2.5 hours, and they ordered in a nice big box of sushi. And we sat and had our working lunch with sushi. So I was very, very happy on that working lunch, I have to say, because I'm a bit impartial to sushi. So yeah, out on the road, good to be meeting people again. We're definitely getting back to normality, John, which is good to see. Back to face-to-face meetings.
Well, you see, I don't think we're going to go back to normality. I think we're going to continue to evolve, that we have adapted. We like to do face-to-face, but we also have realized that some of the travel wasn't necessary. So I think it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I was told the show, while active, felt about 1/3 smaller. I don't know the count, so I don't know whether that's fair representation or not. But things like that, it's like, well, what is the right size in the new normal?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Probably won't go back to what we had before, but there'll be an evolution. So that's the CEO on the road, just a wee update on that. In terms of market update, we haven't done this for a few weeks, and what caught my attention, John, was sort of numerous countries. The one I picked out was Canada. Mr. Trudeau, for those either a bit of a Marmite character at the minute. But so he's proposing currently a ban on foreign buyers to try to help stabilize the real estate market in Canada. The Isle of Man, in terms of their housing crisis, have outlined something similar, limiting foreign buyers. So is this something that perhaps England, the UK may do you think, John, or have you come across this in other markets as a means of stabilization?
So I've rarely ever seen it, though I do know Switzerland has operated this way for a very long time. There's very few places that foreign nationals can buy in Switzerland. It's a solution that may be ill-targeted. It's so like rent control, that when you think prices are too high, restrict access. That doesn't actually fix the problem. Now, whether this is mostly driven by having too much money available, so asset inflation caused by loose capital, so then banning things, I don't know. And it's an asset class, but it's also people's homes. So possibly, how do you separate those two? Well, if you can't, then what are you going to do? And when it comes to the whole policing mechanism and all the rest, I don't know that this is a solution. It's good PR and it's a good temporary thing, but does it actually work longer term is unclear.
Yeah, you wouldn't be implying that a politician made a policy to get votes, would you, because it's popular?
Well, that Donald Trump is the poster boy for that.
Yeah, so making something that people like to hear, but you can see the logic in it to a point. Particularly, I mean, this has been something in London, particularly, where so much inverted commas foreign money come in to buy property in London, particularly, and England in general, and it does have pressures and cause supply and demand issues, for what you might say is local or country resident people. So it is a factor, but yeah, you just have to piece your way through it and find something that works. Okay, your asked question today, John. What's the scope of the outsourcing of compliance? Will someone advising you just provide advice, or will they help with the investment itself?
Well, I think the key here for this question is focusing on the word compliance. If someone is providing advice and assistance on compliance, then it would be on compliance. So I don't see it as advice on the investment itself. I don't see it as general advice. I see it as this is what's necessary to be compliant. And I think the key here, because I use this phrase, outsource the compliance. So if you have all these FCA regulations and you could choose to master them, or you could outsource it to someone else who's already authorized, I would argue that if it's a fixed fee outsourcing relationship where you can get it all handled for a number, then why would you want to do that internally? Why would you want to take it on yourself? It has a lot of complexity. There's a lot of liability, and there's no profit in doing compliance well. If you're a property developer, property investor, it's a necessary requirement, but you don't get like more profit because you did it yourself. You actually spend a lot of time trying to keep up to speed. Where if you can offload it, in this case, the way I was suggesting it when I spoke to someone about this was go to Leo Crowdfunding, pay them their fee to list your deal. That fee includes all the compliance technicalities and support that are necessary, and you can just be done with it. They're FCA authorized, they have insurance for this. It's on them for a fixed fee. Why not? Why try to do this internally?
Yeah, and I think it is quite frightening in some ways that still there's so many developers out there who are looking to raise funds, but who have no idea about any latest FCA consultation papers or policy statements, just oblivious. And it's kind of like, if you're going to be in a business, then the onus is on you to be aware of what the regulations are for that business. I mean, ignorance is no defense in law.
That's right. I mean, this is a criminal matter. If you get it wrong, doesn't mean it has to go to criminal prosecution, but we're not talking some lightweight sort of casual thing. And it's very inexpensive, in my opinion, to just pay a platform that's authorized to handle it for you. You don't have to do this internally. And I'd rather have you go find the next deal. I'd rather have you go supervise the building site or deal with the tenancy or do the marketing for Airbnb. All the things that do create profit, do create money, rather than compliance, which is an overhead for most property people.
Mhm. And just one quick follow-up on this, because I had a message yesterday from one of our fundraisers who's had 2 raises on our platform and who moved to us primarily because of what we're talking about, the outsourcing of compliance. They tend to bring all their own investors with them. These are private deals they do on our platform. But they sent me a snip of another developer in their area who was raising funds on Facebook and sort of asked the question, is this compliant? I mean, there was no risk warnings. There was comparisons to the bank. There was, move now quickly before you miss the opportunity. It was like red flag after red flag after red flag. What would you say to someone who says, well, look, people are doing this and aren't getting caught, so why should I pay to have it done? Because just might as well just carry on like everybody else.
So it's true. People don't necessarily get caught. You have people who speed in the motorway. You have people who take illegal drugs. You have all kinds of things that people do. And well, I didn't get caught yesterday, so it must be good. That's not really how it works. And particularly if you're trying to raise money, signaling to the people with the cash that I'm a little bit of a risk taker. I don't follow the rules. I'm going to play fast and loose with your money. That's the messaging that you're sending out when you do this. Or I'm a complete idiot. I don't understand anything. I'm not up to speed on the rules and regulations. So I'm a safe pair of hands because I don't know what I'm doing. Like, that's not a good message.
Yeah, no, good point. Good point. Well made. Okay, before we go to Ed then as our special guest today, the Wick Road project is due to close actually tomorrow at 5 p.m. It's up to 75,600 from 37 investors. I was speaking to Dal this morning, and there's a couple of investors currently onboarding, doing their KYC and AML who intend to invest in the project. So I'm certainly very confident this will fully fund to the 100,000 target by 5 p.m. tomorrow. Obviously, if any of the investors that have invested to date want to put a little bit more on, they're more than welcome. Or if anyone's still looking at it, haven't made a final decision, you've got any questions you want to ask, certainly reach out to Dal and he'll happily answer any questions you have. Go ahead, John.
Independent of Dal, I think people who are listening to this need to take on board that you want to complete your KYC early. Don't wait for a project. Don't wait for a deadline. There's a few questions. You have to submit a few documents. Do whatever it takes to get that KYC done. So that way you're investor ready or investment ready for any project coming up, rather than, well, my file's still not complete. My details aren't complete. And I need to do all this stuff before I can invest.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. And Waite's House will be view deal in a couple of days. We've mentioned this now for a few weeks. Quite a large project down in Ferrum from Hitesh and the Creation Tech team. So keep tuned out for that, and it'll be here as soon as it's here. So let's get straight on now. Our special guest, as we announced last week, delighted that our third project has successfully paid out. It's really good when SPVs are buying back the shares of the crowd investors, particularly when they're meeting their target ROI. So in this particular one, Avon Valley, of course, by Ed, and this was done under the Beaumont Homes brand, which obviously involved his father Miles and brother and sister as well. I think we're all involved in this project initially. So this actually did pay out its 30% targeted return on investment. We'll get into some of the details of the project now. But Ed, first of all, let me welcome you once again. Maybe just very quickly explain your background, and then we're going to watch a quick video and then get into the details of this project. So you're welcome once again.
Hello, David. Hello, John. Yeah, of course, I can introduce myself. That's me on the right-hand side of that picture of your left-hand side of your screen. I've been a builder and a developer since I was since I left school when I was 16. That was quite a while ago now, and been building, developing ever since then. Done a couple of successful crowdfunding projects now, and I'm working on more, and that's me.
Yeah, and obviously your father, Miles, has been a local builder in Bristol area for what must be 37, 38 years now, is it?
Long time, yeah, long time. I mean, more than that, really. If you can, he left school at 16 as well. Went straight into an apprenticeship with a large construction firm. So very long, and he's 64. So very long time involved in construction, and then into property in his sort of middle 20s.
Yeah, so it's good having that expertise in the background as you obviously grow your business and your brand. I know you're kind of branched out now into your own brand, but
Yeah.
I guess it's obviously good to have that track record and local knowledge. So let's get straight into Avon Valley. This short video should play, and then we'll get into a couple of questions. And can I invite questions from the audience? I know we have obviously people here who have invested in this project. If you have any questions for Ed, now's the time to ask them. Get them into the Q&A, and we'll be able to put them directly to Ed. So let's see if this video plays.
Hello everyone, my name's Ed Morgan. I'm here in Bitton. I'm a director of the company, and I'm the point man behind this project. The project's called Avon Valley Apartments. We're hoping to finish the project in the next 2 weeks. It's been an interesting project from start to finish. We've dealt with many challenges, but as always, we've ploughed through, and we're at the death of the project, and we're proud of what we've created here. The site visit went well. We showed everyone around. There were questions about the project. It was nice to see people who were interested, and I was able to give them little bits of information about the project that you might not know or think. People invest in people, so without these site visits, it's hard to build that connection, which we're all trying to achieve.
Cool. So we're going to get in now just some questions about it. I'm going to just come off screen so that you're full on. There we are. So project is now obviously complete, and you've managed to pay back to the investors. You want to just give a very quick sort of 1 minute just overview on the completion of the project and how you felt it went?
Okay, yeah. So we started the project in the end of 2020, and then we made our way through the disruption caused by COVID, the pandemic. There was challenges as we've listed, but we managed to get over them by one way or another, and we finished in late 2021, and then we had a bit of a headache with the legal process. Not my favorite, indeed not my favorite part of property, the legal process. But overall, the project was successful, and hopefully the investors are happy, and we can build on that. We can try to do better. We can improve on things, and just be a better offering, maybe.
What did you learn from the legal hiccup or speed bump?
What have I learned? Perhaps I've learned that that process could be started earlier, even if the project isn't isn't completely finished. I mean, we waited till it was done basically to get the valuer in to make sure that what they were seeing the finished article, but we probably could have got them in sooner, and they would have valued it at the same. So that might have given us a month. And I would say that maybe some of the legal work could have been done. I mean, because it wasn't the same solicitor as who I bought the site with.
So the original conveyancing was done by one solicitor, and the sale was done by refinancing.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, but that was done. The reason for that was because I was told that was the best thing to do to be dual represented to the mortgage company's preferred solicitor would dual represent us, and I was told that would speed things up, but I don't think it did, to be honest.
And you were told that by the mortgage broker?
Yes.
Yeah. Classic advice from a mortgage person.
Yeah.
So the project itself, which I said at the very start, you used money from the crowd to purchase the garden for the 100,000, and then the exit was a combination of either selling the units, but you're always wanting to keep at least one. In the end, you've kept all three, have you, or have you sold any of them, or what was the final? I know you financed to pay back the investors, but what's your plan longer term?
Long term is rent. AST rents for now. It is rented out, fully rented out straight away. But may consider doing some short term lets in the future. But at the moment, it's just a steady rental portfolio, basically.
Okay. From memory, someone you knew maybe was going to be in one of them. Did you end up letting them all out to sort of strangers, or was there?
I ended up renting them out. Through a letting agent.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so come back then, sort of just grasp the nettle a bit regarding sort of the COVID impact, and again, just for full transparency, as all the investors who have been getting updates know, the build cost came in obviously higher than what was originally projected. So that was obviously a factor which obviously impacted then the net profit projected on the project. So build cost was higher, net profit was obviously a bit lower. How did you find that journey, or how frustrating was it, sort of outside your control in terms of cost of materials and things like that, and how did you adapt?
Well, it was annoying. Of course, it's annoying for everyone. Anyone who has to pay anyone who has to pay for materials, it's an issue. If you've already signed up to say a project, or you've already put a build cost in, well, that's it. You can't go back and say, well, you can, but you've agreed a price, and then all of the facts change. So it is annoying, but to be honest, I think that a lot of people were in the same boat. In fact, I know everyone was in the same boat. So it's just one of those things that you just gotta deal with. I mean, that's a rising costs of labor and materials are a concern to any construction project right now, and it doesn't look like it's getting any better anytime soon. I'm still on a monthly basis. I'm still getting an email from all of the suppliers saying we're rising prices by 10%, we're rising by 15%, and but that's just a fact of life right now, and it's sort of dampened. The issue is sort of mitigated, or there's some counterbalance in the way of house price inflation, and that's how we're all muddling through at the moment. You know, costs are rising, but the end value is also rising. So it's just a challenge to deal with.
Okay. And then I want to finish the minute talking about the priority share structure, because that obviously was very positive in this scenario. Obviously, the shareholders stroke investors all receive the SPV accounts, and we're able to look at, you know, obviously the breakdown of the various accounts, which is grand. The neighbor who you bought the garden off, I think you also built a garage for them, which was part of the structure. I mean, are they happy with how this has all went? Is it what they envisaged? Is it, you know,
Yeah. Well, they got a bit rattled during the build, and they're quite nervous characters, but they're really happy now. Their garage, they've turned into a workshop / games room, and yeah, they're really happy. I've been
Work from home.
Hobbies. They're retired, so it's just hobby.
Yeah,
He's got a hobby workshop, and then they're big Manchester City fans, and they've made where the car was supposed to be parked, they've turned it into a shrine around a big pool table. I've been around there. A couple of times since, and yeah, we're good friends. So I'm happy with how that's.
There must be a satisfaction then out of sort of spotting the opportunity, seeing this garden that had development potential, starting the negotiations, getting it over the line, because a lot of times it doesn't even get that far, getting over the line, raising the funds, completing the project, and now you sort of drive past there and it's like, it's done. That must be quite satisfying as a developer.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. It's nice to leave a legacy, especially in your local environment. Yeah, I hope in 30 years I'll be able to drive past lots of places and remember the projects. It's just nice. It's nice to drive past projects you've worked on, even better projects that you own. That's one of the best things about being in property, I'd say, that opportunity to leave a mark on your local environment.
You should choose one brick somewhere in the building and inscribe your name on it, and then you'll be able to go back and decades later and point to the grandkids, look, there's, I built this.
Yeah, that is a good idea. I think a date stone. You can get a date stone, an inscribed stone, can't you? I think that's worth doing.
Yeah, no, definitely leave a legacy. So just sort of wrapping up then, and I'm going to ask you, like, was there anything you would do different on the project? But before we get to that, John, this was a priority share structure. So while the cost did go higher than expected and the net profit was less than expected, the project still paid out the target 30% ROI because of the priority structure. Do you want to just allude to that as to how that sort of benefited the investors in this project?
So overall, the shareholders are just shareholders in the project, and they are behind all the debt. So any loans that the company's taken out to make the project happen. But when it comes down to within the shareholders, the equity shareholders, the developers taking the view that I treat my guests, my passive investors, better than I treat myself. If I was having a buffet, you feed your guests before you feed yourself. So the target return was set based on best estimate at the start, and everybody knew that going in, and it was on the developer, in this case Ed and his company, to make their best effort to deliver a profit and successful project. If there is profit, then there's a priority towards paying the passive investors first up to the target return. Once that target return is achieved, then the profits are split on the essentially proportional basis based on the representation of the shares, how many shares each side has, the passive investors versus the active investors. I would say the crowd shares versus the developer or Ed's shares, so to speak.
Yeah, okay, thanks for explaining that. Another question just popped in here. Out of interest, what are the pros and cons of dual legal representation? So is it necessary or not?
Well, let me comment. I think it's misleading for the community to call it dual representation. What effectively is saying is we're going to have one lawyer representing the two sides. And I think there's an inherent conflict of interest baked into that. Now, what people might not realize is when you take out a loan, the mortgage company providing that loan expects the lawyer to represent them. That also happens that they may be representing you at the same time. That's the dual representation. So if you say anything to that lawyer about your situation, technically that lawyer has to inform the lender what you've told them. So I think there's almost a baked in conflict of interest. It's cheaper than having two lawyers, of course, but it's like, who's the lawyer really working for?
Yeah, and the whole concept of
I
sort of
found
Chinese walls to talk about sometimes in solicitors' offices, yeah, still leaves doubts there. So go ahead, Ed.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that although we were dual represented, I mean, in reality, everything was done for the benefit of the other side. So it wasn't really dual representation. It was going painfully over and over the same points, with no real motive to get through things quickly for our benefit.
Yeah, we had numerous sort of texts and phone calls, and we were like, "What's happening?" And you're like waiting on the lawyers, solicitors, and then they come back with a whole bunch of questions that had already been answered in some cases, and you were forced to like go back over old ground. So yeah, definitely a very tedious process, as well as I think everyone knows at the minute that solicitors are slower than normal, just given the follow-on. Whether it's all due to COVID or not is probably a topic for another discussion, but that seems to be getting the blame for why everything seems to be slow in the legal world currently. So, okay, so last question then, Ed. Would you do anything different in this project if you go back and start again? Is there one thing you would do different?
The two things that I mentioned, I would do. So I would instruct the valuer sooner, and I think I'd take a little bit of a risk on that maybe, and then I would have a think about the dual representation, because I think the extra money to get an independent solicitor would be well worth the hassle, the months of hassle. That would be well worth changing for the future. What else would I do? Nothing. No, I mean, we're humans. We learn from our mistakes. So I know that next time I'll be stronger. I'll be better. I'll be more knowledgeable. So I'm happy.
Good. No, good answer. That's a really good place to finish, I think. Bottom line is you've delivered a really good project. The crowd investors have received their target ROI. In other circumstances, they may have got a little bit more, but circumstances are what they are. So I think the shareholder investors are very, very happy. As you say, you've learned some things for the future.
David. So I don't think we should focus on other circumstances. I'm one of these investors. I'm perfectly happy with what I received. I'm waiting for Ed to do another project. You know, people shouldn't focus on, well, if it didn't rain and it was perfectly nice and she didn't blow her nose at the wrong time, life would have been better. It's like, we can't go there. This was a good project. We had solid returns. It was a nightmare scenario when it comes to COVID and the building site. And it's like, I had my feet up drinking a little bit of a whiskey, making good money because Ed was out in the trenches. Go Ed.
Yeah, but you're an experienced passive investor. When you're dealing with crowdfunding, sometimes you're maybe less experienced.
Tell me who can slap around. I'll deal with them.
Mismanaged expectations. You know, so their expectations are unrealistic, but it doesn't mean some investors don't have them. So it's just.
I understand that people
brilliant
believe
project,
the world is
well delivered.
I think people believe the world's flat, that Donald Trump's going to get reelected. I believe that people have that vision in their heads, but this is a bloody good return for not a whole lot of work for the passive investors. So
Definitely, and it's great to see the video and great to see the finished article. So fantastic, Ed. Thank you very much for being here today. Really appreciate that. Great to have you on again, and looking forward. You've obviously got 2 other projects currently. There, I think the job updates probably this week to the shareholder investors, Bridge Road and Church Road, and I'm due to pop over to Bristol on the 28th of April. So I'll be meeting yourself and Miles and getting a tour around the projects just to get on site and see how they're coming on. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing you. So next week then, just to finish off, John, we are covering what is next for peer-to-peer crowdfunding. Maybe a strange topic, but for those who aren't aware, there's been quite a little bit happening in the last couple of weeks. One is increased FCA, call it scrutiny, call it raising the bar on peer-to-peer platforms. There have been some platforms obviously have chosen to exit the market in recent months just due to regulation. And there's also been multiple platforms are now moving more towards institutional funding rather than looking out for the retail investors, which really what crowdfunding is all about. So there's some interesting sort of trends happening. So John and I are going to discuss this next week, and I know you're looking forward to that, John.
yeah, I think basically peer-to-peer is dead.
Big statement. You have to back it up next week now.
I will. It's easy.
Big statement. I should bring on someone who still believes passionately in the future of peer-to-peer to debate you. Maybe that would be good fun if we manage that.
If you can find someone who's still in the business.
Oh, there we are. My phone will be inundated now this afternoon, all my peer-to-peer friends. So yeah, we'll deal with this next week. I'm looking forward to that. And of course, as always, you can go to our YouTube channel. If you haven't already, please subscribe, click that big red button, subscribe, and become one of our followers on YouTube. And of course, you can get all the previous content is all there. So thank you for today. That is us at the end of what we have. So thank you, Ed, once again for joining us. Look forward to seeing you in a few weeks.
Lovely. Thanks, guys.
And thanks, John. And we wish everyone a very happy Thursday and see you all again next week. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.